Alright guys, so unless you've been living under a rock, then you know that Canon has released the highly anticipated 1DX Mark III. And with the Canon 1DX Mark III, one of the big factors and the big selling points that they have pushed that everyone wants to get their hands on and test out is the 5.5K RAW recording format, not only in 24 frames, but in 60 frames per second as well. So guys, that got me to thinking, what if we did a side-by-side comparison test where we pit the 1DX Mark III's 5.5K RAW up against this? Hold on a second, hold on. Bear with me. I got a surprise for y'all. What if we put the 1DX Mark III's 5.5 RAW up against this? The red Scarlet-W Dragon 5K recording format. What if we put the 1DX Mark III up against the red? Would you be able to notice a difference? And would it be a big enough difference to justify the price difference between the 1DX Mark III and the red Scarlet-W Dragon 5K? So guys, the 1DX Mark III is going to cost around $6,500, while the red Dragon with an up and running package is going to cost about $14,000 to $15,000. Yes, you could buy the brain alone for $10,000, but you're not going to be able to operate the red without an up and running package. So that's going to cost you around $14,000 to $15,000, which basically that is almost a $10,000 price difference between the 1DX Mark III and the red Dragon 5K. So for this test, what I wanted to do was shoot both cameras in the highest resolution settings. For the 1DX Mark III, that is going to be shooting in the 5.5K RAW format, and for the red Scarlet-W Dragon 5K, that is going to be shooting in 5K full frame format. So let's take a look at some of these side-by-side comparisons, and let's see if you're able to tell the difference between the 1DX Mark III and the red Scarlet-W Dragon 5K. Let's see if you can get these side-by-side comparison tests right. So now that we've seen these side-by-side comparisons between the 1DX Mark III and the red Dragon 5K, let's go ahead and reveal the answers on which camera was which for each test. Let's go ahead and roll that real quick right now. How many did you all get right? Did you get all of them right? Did you get none of them right? How many of those side-by-side comparison tests were you able to get correct? And if you were able to get all of them correct or some of them correct, what gave it away on each side-by-side comparison that was able to let you know which camera was the Mark III and which camera was the red Dragon 5K? Let me know down in the comments below how many you all got right and what gave it away, letting you know which camera was which. Also, with the last two tests, I did want to try to stump you guys, and I did want to make the last two tests be the same camera for each test. So one of the tests was both the Mark III on the side-by-side comparison, and the last test was the red on both side-by-side comparisons. Just wanted to try to fool you all and stump you all and see if you got those two right correctly. Now, I'm gonna be quite honest, I was not expecting the 1DX Mark III 5.5K RAW to be up to standard, and in some cases during the test, be actually sharper and more crisp than the red Dragon 5K. I was actually expecting the red to surpass the 1DX Mark III's 5.5K RAW in all aspects, but as you can see during some of those tests, the actual 1DX Mark III did look more crisp and sharp compared to the red Dragon 5K. Now quickly, to be fair, the 1DX Mark III does shoot at 5.5K RAW, and I'll put the actual resolution right here. And the red Dragon 5K actually shoots at 5K, not 5.5K, and I'll put the resolution aspect ratio right here as well. So there is a little bit of a difference between the 1DX Mark III versus the red Dragon when it comes to the actual aspect ratio and resolution. I did want to do this test because unfortunately a lot of filmmakers have the perception that if you do own a higher quality camera like a Red or an Alexa, that automatically makes you think that you're superior than other filmmakers just because you own a more expensive camera. Sometimes that's not always the case, and actually, to be honest, it's more about the person behind the camera and the knowledge that they have, as opposed to just having a high expensive quality piece of equipment like a Red or an Alexa. If you know what you're doing behind the camera and you actually know your equipment and you know the technical aspects of your camera and your equipment, most of the times you will be able to shoot better than people who do have a higher quality camera and that don't have that knowledge or that technical knowledge when it comes to using their equipment and their cameras. So I will say the big difference that I did notice between the 5K RAW from the Red and the 5.5K RAW from the 1DX Mark III is that the Red did produce a more cinematic look, even though in some of the tests it did have a more softer, subtle look compared to the sharper, crisper version of the 1DX Mark III. What the Red did have was smoother roll-offs in the highlights to the midtones to the shadows. If you actually look at this test where I was using C. Ryan's studio setup that he films his YouTube videos on, you can actually see the side-by-side comparison between the 1DX Mark III and the Red Dragon 5K. If you actually look at my skin tones, you can tell on the 1DX Mark III 5.5K RAW that the highlights are a lot more harsh and that the roll-offs and the fade between the highlight to the midtones to the shadows is actually way more subtle, and there's not a smooth roll-off compared to the Red comparison on the right side that you can see, where it actually has a smooth roll off between the highlights, midtones, and shadows on my actual facial features and my skin tones. So that is something that these cinematic cameras will do, like a Red or Alexa. It doesn't always mean that the camera is going to be more sharper than, say, a GH5 or 1DX Mark III, but what it's going to do is it's going to give you a more cinematic film look. And with that being said, what that's doing is providing better skin tones in the highlights, the midtones, and the shadows, so it doesn't provide as much of a harsh look like on the 1DX Mark III did in C. Ryan's YouTube setup, as you can see on the left hand side. So guys, again, let me know down below in the comment section how many of these you got right out of the side-by-side comparisons, and if you got all of them right or most of them right, what was the giveaways for being able to tell the difference between the 1DX Mark III and the Red Dragon 5K? What were you able to see in the side-by-side comparison videos that gave it away on which camera was which? And also let me know, do you think it's a big enough difference to spend that $10,000 more to go and purchase a Red Dragon 5K as opposed to using the 1DX Mark III 5.5K RAW and using that camera for photo capabilities? Does it justify spending that $10,000 more in these side-by-side comparisons that you saw? Let me know down below in the comment section. And guys, as always, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to like, comment, and share this video, as well as smash the subscribe button if you haven't already, and be sure to hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the content that is coming to this channel. Check in with you all guys later.